The last chapter we will cover in this course is Chapter 7 about applications of trig functions. We will cover sections 7.1, 2, 3, and 4, but not 7.5. You have the trig functions for these angles memorized from earlier chapters. But in the real world, where applications happen, not all angles are conveniently something like this that we already know. So you'll need to use a calculator. Here's a TI-84. Notice it has the sine, cosine, and tangent buttons. And of course, you don't need secant, cosecant, and cotangent because those are the reciprocals of those. Right now, this calculator is set into radian mode. Often in this chapter, the angles will be given in degree mode, not radian mode. So on this one anyway, you can do second mode and then switch it to degree mode. See, I've already done that. This was in degree mode now. So as you work problems in this chapter, be mindful of this issue. Sometimes you want degree mode, sometimes you'll want radian mode, and sometimes you'll just get it backwards. People, of course, had applications of trigonometry way before calculators were invented. Here's, for amusement, a book called Logarithmic and Trigonometric Tables. This one I found in my office. It's from when UW-Eau Claire used to be called Wisconsin State College. So later in the 70s, I guess, it changed to the University of Wisconsin. And you can see that somebody had this checked out in February 1958. And a bit more history back then, the math department was in Phillips Hall. And later on in the 70s is when Hibberd was built, and that's when the math department moved into Hibberd from Phillips. This particular book was arranged by the Department of Mathematics at the United States Naval Academy. Looks like in 1945, Logarithmic and Trigonometric Tables. Looks like a copyright in 1945, reprinted in June 1954. And look where it was printed, in Menasha, Wisconsin. Is anybody here from Menasha? Relevant to this class, had this class been offered 50 years ago, would have been Table 3, the values of trigonometric functions. Here's a page from that part of the book. If I wanted to find the sine of 14 degrees, that would be right here, 0.24192, and I can also find the tangent and cotangent and cosine. Down here, if I wanted to find the sine of 14.5 degrees, so 0.5 degrees is the same as 30 minutes, right, 30/60ths. And so here's how I would make that correction. So remember, this is the sine or such of 14 degrees. Let me scroll down to the bottom of this page. And so at the very bottom here, let's see, this entry, this would be the sine of 14 degrees and 60 minutes. So that's the same as sine of 15 degrees. And notice that 15 plus 75 is 90. So I can then also see that the cosine of 75 degrees is 0.25882. Right? The cosine of 75 degrees is the same as the sine of 15 degrees. So with this sort of organization, you don't have to print as much in as many pages. You can, if you have the 14 and 15 up here, you don't have to then later on have 14 and 15 at the top, or 75 and 74 at the top of the page. Instead, you can just be looking at the bottom of the page for the 14 and 15 when you need the trig functions for 74 and 75.